So as we saw last time, there are three distinct levels of language: linguistic level, the speech level, and the conversational level. And all of these levels of meaning affect arguments. So in the next three lectures, we want to work through these levels one by one. And this lecture is going to deal in particular with the linguistic level of language, which is simply the production of a meaningful utterance. So in order to perform a linguistic act, all you have to do is utter a set of words that are meaningful, that fit together according to the semantics, that is the meanings of particular words, and the syntax or the grammar of the language in general. For example, it's easy. It's easy is a linguistic act because it's, as a contraction, you're allowed to contract it and is according to the rules of English, and easy is a word, so it's easy follows the semantics and the syntax of the language of English. That's all there is to it. Now, although linguistic acts are really simple, they do require some special components that are worth separating out. For example, they require meaningful words. When you simply hum a tune, like then you're not performing a linguistic act because there are no meaningful words in it. But when you sing a song, I love Miranda and Nicholas too, then you are performing a linguistic act because you uttered words that were meaningful when they were put together in that way. And I've been taking this for granted, but of course the words you utter have to be meaningful. It's not going to be a linguistic act if you utter what looks like a sentence, namely a set of sounds, that look like words if they're not really words. So if you say, "'Twas brillig and the slithy toes did gyre and gimble in the wabe," and so on from Lewis Carroll's famous Jabberwocky poem, then it's not going to be a linguistic act if those words are not meaningful words in any language. And you can also get nonsense when you take words that have meanings and put them together in an order that doesn't make any sense. My dog has fleas makes sense, but dog fleas my has doesn't make any sense. So meaningful words with the wrong grammatical structure won't work. And Noam Chomsky from MIT taught us that you can also get nonsense when you take words that make sense and you put them together with the right grammatical structure, but they still don't fit together because of the relation between the meanings. His example here was, colorless green ideas sleep furiously. What does that mean? Colorless green ideas sleep furiously? Well, colorless makes sense. Green, that's a word. Ideas, sleep, furiously. Each of those words makes sense, and they're each in their appropriate grammatical role, but altogether it doesn't make any sense. So there are lots of ways you can get nonsense in language. And when you do, you're not performing a linguistic act. Now there's some really fun examples where it's not clear whether or not the utterance is meaningful. Some of these examples, among my favorites, are garden path sentences. Here's one. The man who whistles tunes pianos. Wait a minute, what does that mean? If you think of it as the man who whistles tunes is one unit, then you don't understand what the word pianos is doing. Because the man who whistles tunes sounds like a reference to a particular man, and pianos is not a verb. But if you think of it as the man who whistles is one unit, and the second unit is tunes pianos, so it's the man who whistles tunes pianos, then it makes sense, because it's the man who's whistling also tunes pianos. So you have to be able to carve the set of words up into the right units and see what grammatical structure they have in order to understand the sentence. Because tunes can either be a verb, which tells you what the man is doing to the pianos, or it can be a noun, which refers to the thing that the man is whistling. And you have to get those grammatical categories straight, and the garden path sentences lead you astray and make you think of it in the wrong way. And there'll be some more examples of that in the exercises. But my favorite example of all is buffalo, buffalo, buffalo. What does that mean? Well, buffalo are American bison. Okay? But buffalo, the word buffalo in English, that is, can also be used as a verb to refer to tricking or fooling someone. So you can have buffalo, American bison, buffaloing, that is tricking or fooling, buffalo, American bison, buffalo, buffalo, buffalo. But you can go even further because there's a city in New York named Buffalo. And of course, there can be buffalo, that is American bison, from the city of Buffalo, New York. And they're called buffalo buffalo. And when they trick or fool other American bison from Buffalo, New York, then you have buffalo buffalo, buffalo, buffalo buffalo, or buffalo 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 buffalo, which doesn't sound like a meaningful utterance, but it is. And you can go even further. You can actually build it out to 11 straight utterances of the word buffalo. Buffalo, 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 buffalo. Now tell me what that means. I'm not going to explain it to you because it takes a while to explain it. But if you think about it, you might be able to figure it out. And even if you can't figure out 11 buffaloes in a row, the point still holds. Because the point's just that sometimes what doesn't seem meaningful turns out to be meaningful. And if you're careful and charitable and do your best to interpret what it really means, then you might be able to make sense out of some utterances that don't seem to make sense at first. And when you can make sense out of them, then they're linguistic acts. For now, I don't have time to go into any detail on semantics or syntax, although we will discuss some details when we discuss vagueness and ambiguity in the discussion of fallacies later in this course. But I hope that the linguistic level is pretty simple and understandable, so we can go on and look in more detail at the speech act level and the conversational act level.